Ever wondered what the role of the elbows is during the golf swing? It's a question I get asked a lot. Where should my elbows be at address? How should they move during the swing? What influence do they have on the swing itself? Let's have a look at that today. Hi, I'm Peter Knight, and I've created this channel, Peter Knight Golf, to help you play the best golf you can. And today we're going to look at how the elbows work during the swing. Yes, they are influential, because they're connected to everything else that happens with arms and wrists and hands and club. So let's have a look. If we perhaps have a look from down the line, if I say go to the top of the swing and lift an elbow or try and tuck an elbow in, you can see a massive change in where the club's going, where the shaft's pointed. And of course, if I'm looking to keep the club moving on a fairly uniform incline back and through, then I need to ensure that my arms, including my elbows, are doing the right thing. So when I set myself up, if we look at some checkpoints, a lot of players will say, do I need to have my elbows tucked in? I'm trying to keep them close. Your elbows have to be oriented somehow. They have to be pointed somewhere. Now, depending on the person, some people are quite tight through the front of the shoulder and the chest, and they will naturally set up with the elbows pointed out. Now, even those people who are tight through here can still get their elbows in a slightly better position. So ideally, when I set myself up, my elbows are pointed to my hips. So my left elbow is pointed to my left hip, and my right elbow is pointed to my right hip. Now, there's no tucking in or holding or squeezing. Again, my arms just have to be oriented somewhere. If the attitude to how my arms rest at address is that they just hang and not really, no tension, I'm not trying to do anything, and then I just bring my arms together. Now, in my case, my elbows will naturally point to my hips. Now, largely that's training, because I've been doing it for decades. Unfortunately, it sounds a long time. It is a long time, but I've been doing it for a long time. If you struggle with what to do with your elbows, if I say place my arms here, now without moving my elbows, my hands, I'll say, are vertical. Now I can turn my back of my hands facing up, but my elbows haven't moved. And I can rotate to palms facing up, and still my elbows haven't moved. So that's just movement through my forearms. So if I can have all this movement through here, and you can see that my forearms are moving, my hands are moving, but my elbows aren't, that means that I can get my elbows to point to the right place. And of course, you can do that too. Barring any injury or breaks in elbows and things like that, where there might need to be some sort of compensation or adjustment, most people are able to do this. So if you find yourself setting up and the arms are out here somewhere, even just rotate your hands out, leave your elbows there, and then bring them back to the club. If that's still difficult for you, then rotate your arms out as far as you can go. Some people might only be able to go to here, but rotate your arms out, then bring them back together. Again, not squeezing the elbows in, and then close the hands on the grip. So once we've got the grip, then if you imagine the distance between my elbows, what I'm going to try and do is keep that distance constant through the swing. So if we look at this movement from the side view, a lot of players, as they start back, as soon as they begin their swing, are going to start to widen the elbows. So it's almost like when I get back to here in my swing, I've almost got a straight line across both forearms as I go back. When I take the club back correctly, if the elbows stay about the same distance apart, even at the top of the swing as what they were at address, you can see that my elbows look quite different there. There's a much different to being like that. Now, one thought that I can have is that if I just, in order to get my elbows to work correctly, if I just allow my arms to hang, and as I swing back, I'm just getting the feeling of my body turning and my body movement is swinging my arms. Now, I'm going to allow my body movement to swing my arms and have my arms float up. Now, when my arms float up, there's no tension through my shoulders or through my elbows or through my wrists. So I'm just allowing that movement to float up. Now, if I've got a golf club in my hands, and I'm doing the same thing and just allowing the club to float up. So now there's very little tension through here. Yes, I'm holding it up here for demonstration purpose, but normally there's no tension in my arms there. So I just let my arms fold up and then down. And as I mentioned at the very start, if there's attempts to keep the elbows tight or the elbows twist, it'll generally have a very, very big effect on the swing path of the club. And of course, if the club starts to move around a lot, it makes the movement a lot less efficient. And when it's less efficient, it's going to impact my ability to control the strike and control the direction of the shot. So, if I practice just arms going back and through, elbows staying about the same distance apart, no tension in my arms, now I'm going to play a shot and look to implement that same feeling as I go back and through. So the movement of the elbows is important. Practice it when you're watching, say, your reflection, particularly from side on. Set the elbows correctly at address. Remember, there's no tension through my arms. There's no tucking my elbows in. There's no tension, no trying to do anything with them as far as manipulating them. Just let them hang. Turn your hands out if you need to. Rotate the hands back, still with the elbows pointed to the hips, and get that movement going. Once you find that you start to create that movement correctly, it's going to be so much easier to control everything. And one last point, when the club swings back and through, particularly with the first part of the swing, my elbows are pointed to my hips at the start. As I start back, they're still pointed to my hips. When I'm swinging the club back down towards impact, my elbows are pretty close to pointed to both hips, as in right to right hip, left to left hip, through here too. So again, that's another way that I'm going to have control over this movement. So practice the movement, observe what you're doing, but do it without tension, and you'll find it'll help your shots a lot.